Welcome back to the Las Vegas Strip, where style points are awarded the louder the shirt you can produce. He's Tyler Fulghum.
You got me beat today, my friend.
It's close. It's very close.
That is colorful.
A little Monet-ish.
I was going to say, is that pointillism? Was Monet pointillism? Was Rembrandt pointillism?
Pointillism?
It's where you create a piece of art by just putting dots in a very, very monotonous, tedious way on a canvas.
We'll have that answer for you sometime by the end of the show.
I'll look it up while you do your thing over there.
Tyler Fulghum, I'm Joe Fortenbaugh. Welcome in the bet. Round 4 of the March Madness mind meld between he and I. That's coming up in a little bit. We have the NBA Monday Night Pick'em, and Jordan Schultz, good friend of the show, is going to join the program to talk about the NBA buyout market. Drummond in LA. You've got Aldridge. I thought he was going to go to Miami. He ends up in Brooklyn. What's it mean for the East? What's it mean for the West? If you're interested in NFL make-miss playoff props, they're up. We're going to talk about them today on Daily Wager, 6 p.m. Eastern, ESPN2. You can also catch it on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ESPN Sports Betting.
Let's put a bow tie on our art dissertation as well. Pointillism, a technique of painting in which small, distinct dots of color are applied in patterns to form an image. Founded or developed in 1886 by George Seurat and Paul Signac.
Look at that.
I was way off, but
yeah. So at least
you learned something. You learned something today on Bet.
Pointillism is a thing. Here's another thing for you. Monday, reaction, no action.
Yes.
Here's
classic
how it works.
Monday Fair.
3 big statements. If you agree, you're reacting. If you disagree, it's no action whatsoever. Number 1 out of the gate. Francis Ngannou is your new UFC heavyweight champion after scoring a second-round KO over previous champion Stipe Miocic Saturday night at UFC 260 here in Las Vegas. So, reaction or no action? Ngannou would defeat Jon Bones Jones in a heavyweight mega fight.
I'm going to say reaction here because Francis Ngannou, we have always known he's had the punching power, the ability to end someone's day. If he hit me, my life, in one single strike.
All your lineage, too.
Exactly. And now they would feel it. Come on, Francis, my moneymaker, baby. Stay away from this. Now we've seen Ngannou, though, develop some of the weaker parts of his game. He's become a more all-around fighter. Go back to the last time he saw Stipe Miocic, by all accounts, the greatest heavyweight resume in the history of this sport. And Miocic beat him in a fight that went 5 rounds, I believe, the distance last time. This time, he knocks Miocic on his derriere in impressive fashion because he's better conditioned. He understands how to position himself better for these knockout blows. And as great as Jon Bones Jones is, who is, by all accounts, the greatest MMA fighter of all time, pound for pound, I can't see him adding enough bulk and size to be able to kind of counter Ngannou if Ngannou lands that punch. So if the fight goes the distance, I give it to Jon Bones Jones. But Ngannou's proving like he can be Mike Tyson. He'll knock you out in the first or second round, and you won't be able to take your advantage with your cardio or your advantage with your wrestling down to the mat and win. So I'm going to say reaction because I think no one in the world is scarier right now than Francis Ngannou.
To your point, his takedown defense vastly improved the second time around with Stipe Miocic. Miocic went one time, he defended it, he reversed it, and then he ended up on top. It was fantastic. For me, it's still no action on this one. I'm going to disagree. We have some odds. Not every sportsbook has hung a number yet, but Ngannou opens as the 180 favorite with Jones as a plus 160 underdog. The fight has to take place before the end of the year in order for those odds to be action. The target date for this is late summer. That's when Francis Ngannou said he would be ready. You're going to give me Jon Jones, the greatest to ever do it, at plus 160. I am going to say yes, and I am going to take that. He's only 33 years old. He did fight last year in February, so it's not as if he's going to have a massive layoff. I think there's a little recency bias here, too. Everyone sees the big Ngannou knockout. Everyone now says Ngannou's on top of the world. We haven't seen Jones in a while. We don't know what to make of him. Still the absolute best in the business.
Let me ask you this question, because it sounds like you're saying no action because you like the price on Jon Bones as an underdog better. Take away the betting angle. It doesn't. There's no action on it. Who do you think just wins the fight because they're the better fighter?
I would still take him. I think he's more well-rounded. Ngannou against Miocic was fantastic. I don't want to take anything away from him. That's not how Jones is going to fight. Jones isn't just going to stand there. There's some kickboxing. But please give it to us. Please. Please. The beauty of UFC, unlike boxing, they actually give you the fights you want to see. All right, number 2, on Friday, the San Francisco 49ers agreed to send the number 12 overall pick in this year's draft, as well as 2 future first-round picks and a future third-round pick to the Miami Dolphins in exchange for the 3rd overall pick in this year's draft. Reaction or no action? The Niners traded up from 12 to 3 to draft Alabama quarterback Mac Jones.
Now, you were talking about giving the people what they want to see in mixed martial arts. What I want to see as a Rams fan, the 49ers do, is draft Mac Jones. Because you know what I don't want? Kyle Shanahan working with an athlete like Trey Lance, Justin Fields, or Zach Wilson at quarterback. I'm going to say no action to this because it makes no sense to me why, as great as Mac Jones looked in Alabama, why Kyle Shanahan and the San Francisco 49ers would want a quarterback who's as limited athletically for this new age of National Football League offense that we see as Mac Jones. That doesn't mean Mac Jones can't be good or great in the NFL. But if I'm Kyle Shanahan, I want a QB that has some ability, some athleticism with his feet because it makes my job easier as a play caller. If I don't call the perfect play, maybe Lance can take off and pick up a first down. Maybe Fields can do the same. Maybe Wilson can do his Brett Favre, Patrick Mahomes thing. Mac Jones has to have that structure. He has to have good blocking. He's a good processor. He reads defenses quickly. But if something breaks down, Jones likely not going to create on his own accord. So I say no action because you trade up to 3 for Mac Jones, who probably wouldn't go in the top 4 or 5 picks. I know that's the big hubbub right now. I hope San Francisco takes Mac Jones as a Rams fan. I'd say he can't be great. It's going to be easier for Aaron Donald to tackle someone like Mac Jones than it would be Trey Lance or Justin Fields. But I say no action here because to me it makes more sense to get the other ones. Go ahead and do it, though, John Lynch. Pull the trigger on Mac Jones at 3.
So Kyle Shanahan, an athletic quarterback, say like a Robert Griffin III.
Like a Robert Griffin III. I know he's made Matt Ryan look good. I know he's made Jimmy Garoppolo look capable.
Went to the Super Bowl with Matt Ryan, who's unathletic.
Right.
Went nowhere with Robert Griffin III, who's very athletic. This is action, my friends. This
I
is
hope
action.
so. I hope you're right.
So,
I hope I'm wrong.
Kyle Shanahan has very specific traits he's looking for in a quarterback, all right? Kyle Shanahan doesn't want a quarterback who's going to drop back, stand there, and throw the football. He likes to run a lot of RPOs, he likes to run a lot of screens, and he likes to run a ton of play action. Mac Jones, 58% of his plays, I believe last year passing plays, were RPOs, screens, or dropbacks. It was one of the highest rates in the entire nation. That's what he does at Alabama. He's not dropping back and standing there. He's doing everything Kyle Shanahan wants. Let's go a little bit further down the line as well. Since you're not trading all the way up and giving up the house for a non-quarterback, and we know Trevor Lawrence isn't going to be there,
right,
and Zach Wilson probably won't be there because he's going to the Jets, which, oh, by the way, the Jets head coach Robert Saleh just so happens to be a Shanahan disciple as his former defensive coordinator. They probably tipped him off as to what they were doing. Let's go through the remaining quarterbacks. Number 1, Trey Lance.
Right.
Guess what? The Niners didn't send anyone to his pro day workout. Number 2, Justin Fields. His pro day is tomorrow, same day as Mac Jones. Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch are going to Alabama for that pro day. They're sending assistant general manager Adam Peters to Ohio State to check out Fields. Would you care to reassess?
I absolutely would, because Mac Jones, I think, can be a very good quarterback, and I agree that Kyle Shanahan has done well with his athletic profile. But what could Kyle Shanahan do and the 49ers accomplish if he had someone he could coach to read defenses the way Mac Jones does, but also has that ability of a Trey Lance, of a Justin Fields? And the other thing, too, is the 49ers are adamant that Jimmy Garoppolo is part of their plans for this year. If Jimmy Garoppolo is part of their plans for this year, wouldn't that mean that he's kind of a bridge for someone who's not quite ready, who needs a year under his belt like Patrick Mahomes got? Aaron Rodgers got like 3 years under Brett Favre. To me, Trey Lance is the scariest option and the option the 49ers should take because he would maximize Kyle Shanahan's full playbook and ability to dominate offensively if you have a quarterback who can throw like him and run like him.
Currently at DraftKings, Mac Jones and Justin Fields are plus 150 to go 3rd overall. Trey Lance plus 175. There was a Mac Jones over-under at 9.5. That prop has been taken off the board. Number 3, the Baylor men's and women's basketball teams have each advanced to the Elite 8 in their respective tournaments. Reaction, no action. Baylor University will have not 1 but 2 teams in the Final Four.
No action on this one. I have the Baylor men going to the Final Four. They're still alive. I do not have the Baylor women going to the Final Four because they match up with the UConn women in the Elite 8.
They do.
And that is the team not only I have going in my women's bracket to the Final Four, it's the team I have winning it all. Surprise, surprise, puppy surprise. So not that Baylor can't beat a UConn team, but even Kim Mulkey, who's one of the all-time great coaches in basketball history, men or women, says, when I step on the same floor as Gino Auriemma, I don't have the coaching advantage. She knows Gino's, as great as she is, Gino is even better. Just look at his resume. And again, even Kim Mulkey is acknowledging that. So as great as she is, the best player on the floor, I think, is going to be Paige Beckers. Best coach on the floor is going to be Gino Auriemma. I have UConn winning it all, so no action.
We're finally in agreement. No action as well for the exact same reasons. Baylor is an 8-point favorite over Arkansas in the Elite Eight. I don't have to lay any points here. I just need to get through on the money line, but I don't even have to lay that. I see Baylor getting past, although the must-bus has been fun to watch. Baylor women, 4-point dog against UConn. And if you're looking at that money line, they were plus 160 this morning to beat UConn. They are now plus 175. So the numbers moving against them. I agree with you. We also just saw them get into some deep water with Michigan on Saturday. Number 60 to Michigan took Baylor all the way to overtime. One of the best women's matches, one of the best basketball games we've seen in the last few weeks. All right. Speaking of basketball, the Elite Eight tonight, March Madness Mind Meld Round 4. My cohort and I have been going head-to-head throughout the course of the tournament, picking against the spread. We're going all the way up until the end. Let's show you how we did in Round 3 over the weekend. No blood here. No blood.
Okay. I was 2 and 2.
Job. 2 and 2. Any regrets? Anything you feel overly strong about? The under in Oregon State Loyola, by the way, bravo. A great pick. A great pick in that matchup. There were 6 points scored in like the opening 6 minutes.
But it was a sweat coming down to the wire.
Always
was a sweat. But like I turned it on with, I believe, 9 minutes to go in the first half, and it was like 9-6, and I was feeling real good. Then someone tweeted me on Twitter about my great pick that I made on the under because it looked like it was going to cash, and I was like,
Bush.
You son of a biscuit-eating bulldog, look what you did.
We don't do that.
It. Yeah. The Villanova-Baylor going over, I feel with Villanova's pace, I probably should have considered that more. They would have had to have been highly efficient, or Baylor would have had to have been really highly efficient. I thought Houston, with their great defense and Syracuse 2-3 zone, would make that a low-scoring game. I was wrong.
Okay, so you go 2 and 2, you lose 0.2 of a unit, the juice, no big deal. 9 and 10 overall, minus 1.57 units. Started slow, you've been very steadily bringing yourself back to respectability. Same thing, no blood. 2 and 2. I had Loyola just. Oregon State, I'll have more on them daily wager today, 6 p.m. Eastern. I cannot believe that Oregon State run. Baylor, smash hit. Oral Roberts, smash hit. Never in doubt there. Syracuse, felt like everyone loved the dog in that game. Houston smacked them. So Joey Fort moves to 11 and 8 overall, plus 2.2 units. The gap is shrinking. We have got to make picks on all 4 of these games. Are you ready?
Ready.
First one out of the chute. It is the Houston Cougars laying 8. Total of 129. They're taking on the Oregon State Beavers. 7:15 p.m. Eastern tonight at Lucas Oil Stadium.
I mean, what's going on with these Beavers? They just can't be stopped. And the market keeps coming up with these lines and saying they're 7, 8-point underdogs.
Disrespecting them.
And not only are they covering, they're winning these games outright. They have won 6 straight as an underdog going back to the Pac-12 tournament. I don't expect them to win this game, but 8 is a little bit too much. Ethan Thompson, a bona fide bucket getter, averaging better than 20 points per game in this tournament. As great as Houston is, he can get his. And the Pac-12, Brother Joe, is 11-1 straight up against non-Pac-12 competition. Now, USC and Oregon played last night. That's the split. That's why I took it out.
Someone had to lose.
Overall, they're 12-2 in this tournament, but 11-1, the Pac-12, against non-Pac-12 competition. So, Oregon State probably just continue and win this game, but I'll gladly take the 8 points in my pocket.
We've been doing this show together since August. I'd like to introduce something new to this installment. It is going to be called the first ever spite bet. This is a spite bet. I am playing Houston -8 purely for spite. So if you're coming to this show thinking maybe I'll get some great analysis, maybe I'll tail a couple of these picks, America, I'm telling you right now, I am picking Houston solely out of spite. In the Pac-12 semis, when it was Oregon State, Oregon State's catching 8 points, 8.5. Played Oregon State.
You did.
Shot the lights out, won that bet.
Okay.
Loved Oregon State.
All right.
For some bizarre reason, I have bet against them in every single game since, and I have lost every single game since, and I am so angry about it, I'm going to ride this train directly into the ground. Spite bet, all right? One reason, the 3-point line. Oregon State can't miss. Since the start of the Pac-12 tournament, they're shooting 41% from deep. That's insane. Their opponents are shooting 21% from deep. How much longer is this nonsense going to keep up? Every time I'm asked to pick an Oregon State game, I bet against it and I give you the same logic. Regression. I'm doing it again. Houston is 8th in 3-point defense, Save me, Cougars. Save me from this Oregon State nightmare.
We're going to have to get a treatment for this. This is going to be a recurring theme throughout the weeks coming on Bet. Joe's Spite Bet of the Week.
Spite Bet of the Week. I am spite betting Oregon State.
We're going to get a graphic. We're going to get an animation. We're going to make it real big. And you're going to get your Spite Bet of the Week because
it's so terrible because they're such a fun watch. Oregon State's been so great. I hate to be on the wrong side of the Cinderella. I hope they go down in flames tonight. Game number 2, the Baylor Bears laying 7.5, total of 148 against the Arkansas Razorbacks. Tip time 9:57 p.m. Eastern. Again, Lucas Oil Stadium.
I'm going to go under here with these two teams.
Woo.
Both are top 30 in defensive rating. We oftentimes talk about their offenses, Baylor most notably, because of Baylor's guards and their ability to knock down the three, though they have been cold from the three-point line, the Baylor Bears, in this tournament. And Arkansas is a good all-around offensive team. Here's what I've noticed about Arkansas. This is a team we think of getting up and down the floor. We saw that all year long in SEC play. However, Brother Joe, in the tournament, the market, I think, has given us a cushion based on how Eric Musselman has kind of changed his style to fit opponents. The under is 3-0 in Arkansas games in this tournament by comfortable margin. So 148 is very high. Basically needs 75 points from each of these teams. And if they're not wildly efficient offensively, I do think the defenses are good enough to keep this under 148. And again, Eric Musselman, NBA pedigree, NBA background, is tailoring his scheme to what the other team brings. And Baylor's as good as he's going to see, especially offensively. But I think Arkansas can make their life less efficient. You don't have to shut down Baylor with all their talent. But I noticed that trend. 3-0 to the under in the tournament. Arkansas Razorbacks. I'm going to keep riding it.
I'm going over. So we have a definite chance for me to either extend the gap or for you to get back in this roulette bet, my friend. Here you go. Hold the chip. All right, first and foremost, Baylor, one of the best three-point shooting teams in the country. Arkansas ranks 138th in three-point defense. So that's advantage number 1. Advantage number 2, like you're talking about with tempo. Baylor's averaging 72 points per game in the tournament, but look at who they've played in terms of tempo. Nova at 336th, Wisconsin at 329th, Hartford at 243rd. Arkansas ranks 17th in tempo, but you make a very astute point. The tempo's been coming down, and as a result, the scoring's coming down. Well, let's look at those 3 games individually. Oral Roberts couldn't hit a 3, and their entire team and their entire offense is predicated on 3s. Texas Tech was the team they played 2 games ago, and that's one of the slowest-paced teams in the entire land. And then number 3, they played Colgate in the opening round, which still featured 150-plus points. It just didn't get to the over. So I do find some reasons as for the great points you're laying out, but still great points. I can see why you're playing the under. It's going to be a fun head-to-head matchup. Let's go to Tuesday. Gonzaga laying 9, total of 153.5 against the USC Trojans, who are scorching hot. Tip time 7:15 p.m. Eastern. Again, Lucas Oil Stadium.
I am going to sprinkle some action on the USC money line.
Woo!
Because
is that the official play?
No, it's not my official play.
Okay.
I'll take the 9-point head start.
Okay.
Just because I'm more comfortable with that. I do have Gonzaga winning the whole damn thing, so I will take the 9 points as kind of a safety measure. However, at plus 350 on the money line, I think there's some great value on USC. According to Ken Palm, he tweeted that this will be a matchup between the number 1 2-point field goal defense, USC, and the number 1 2-point field goal offense, Gonzaga, of all time. USC looks really strong. All those transfers surrounding the Mobley brothers and Evan Mobley specifically in the middle, who can do a little bit of everything. And then Andy Enfield, baby. 10-0 ATS in his NCAA tournament career. I mushed Roy Williams earlier this tournament, 29-0 in the first round. He lost. I'm not mushing you, Andy. Keep it riding. 11-0 ATS. I think they actually win outright.
Not a mush, because you've been picking USC. You've been mentioning this stat, and you have been winning. So if it hasn't mushed already, you won't be getting credit for any mush. Now, I completely agree. Exact same pick here. I'm taking the points. I don't have a lot of analysis to add. I just say this. In 32 games this season, USC has been an underdog 5 times. 5 times in 32 games, none of which have featured them as a dog of more than 3.5 points. Now they're catching 9. They're playing the best team in the country, but 9 is an awful lot, knowing that this is going to be the toughest test Gonzaga has had all season. Final game on the card, Tuesday night, tip time 9:57 p.m. Eastern from Lucas Oil Stadium. Michigan who refuses to die despite the fact that everyone was picking against him. Laying 7, total of 136 against UCLA, a.k.a. UCLA.
I'm going to play a total here and go over. Michigan has averaged better than 80 points per game in this tournament. Both teams are top 42 in the nation in offensive rating. UCLA's played a couple of overtime games. It's not really analysis, but they've been involved in close games. Close games usually free throws down the stretch or overtime. 136 just seems a little low for two offenses that are playing as well as they both are.
Florida State was pathetic.
Yeah,
it was pathetic. So many of us liked them. So many of us picked them. They were a trendy upset. They weren't even in that game. That game was so overly hyped, and the Seminoles couldn't do anything, which is a big testament to Michigan. I'm going to play the under here, so we're going to go against each other for the second time.
I'll throw it back your way.
Throw it back my way.
Throw it back your way.
Appreciate it. I've dropped a few of these recently. I was happy to catch that one right there. UCLA generates about 53% of its offense via the two-pointer, which is a very large amount when compared to the rest of the country. Michigan's opponents from two-point range averaging just 42% from the field. That's third best in NCAA. So strength on strength here. I think that's going to lead to a grind, and which these teams tempo-wise, UCLA 337th in tempo, Michigan 247th. UCLA with a good defense in its own right. I think this is going to be a rock fight, 136 if this becomes a free throw contest. I'm in big trouble.
The tournament challenge is going to take shape after tonight's games or this week's games, it appears, because we have the 4 bets on opposite sides in 3 of them.
Let's go for it. Let's go for it. All right. Let's bring our friend in, Jordan Schultz, basketball analyst, ESPN, kind enough to join us here on Bet. Jordan, we always appreciate the time. After dropping a 44, 14, and 8 stat line against the Detroit Pistons Friday night, James Harden told the media, quote, "I feel like I am the MVP. It's just that simple." Currently at a price of 7-1, are you buying James Harden as the association's most valuable player?
Well, he has asserted himself into the conversation, so much so that I can't believe it, fellas, because if you would have told me 2 months ago, in the wake of what happened in Houston, him saying, "Get me out of here," for him to become an MVP favorite, or at least in the conversation, is incredible. I think there's great value at plus 700. And if you go back to when Harden won it in 2018, he led the NBA in scoring over 30 points per game. Well, now, to your point, he's leading the NBA in assists, over 11 per game. He's efficient. He's obviously making a ton of threes. He's getting to the line. But I think the way he plays in tandem with Kyrie Irving and the fact that Brooklyn is 24-7 with him on the floor lends us to say, no LeBron James, at least he's been out. I think there's voter fatigue with Giannis. We haven't seen Luka assert himself yet. I think it's 7-1. James Harden has great value for MVP.
All right, Jordan, let's enter the buyout market, and James Harden's Brooklyn Nets were very active in that regard. There was 2 big names we're going to discuss here that joined playoff or championship contenders. LaMarcus Aldridge, bought out by the Spurs, signing with Harden and the Nets. They are the favorite, overwhelmingly, to come out of the East, minus 105. Now with Aldridge joining Blake, Kyrie, Harden, and Durant, are you going to buy the Nets at that price, or look at someone else now as a better value potentially in the East?
No. This is all Brooklyn. I was on them before. You add Blake, okay, maybe he can give you something, but you add LaMarcus Aldridge. Now that's a big add, because Aldridge's ability as a pick and pop guy, someone that can come in and maybe take some of DeAndre Jordan's minutes. You can play big with him. You can play small because of his ability to shoot. I think he'll give you 20-plus a night minutes, and then he will be able to get you buckets. He's not a great defender at this stage in his career. You don't need him to be, because you're not a great defensive team. You're going to outscore people if you're Brooklyn. So I love LaMarcus Aldridge in Brooklyn. I think it's a great fit, and I think he'll give them something that they really didn't have from the 4 and 5 slots. So yes, buy Brooklyn, pay that premium, and know that they're coming out of the East.
All right, same question now for the favorite in the betting markets out west, the LA Lakers. Acquire or add Andre Drummond to their roster. They are plus 130 to win the West right now. We know AD and LeBron are currently on the shelf, but once they get back, then of course going to be a championship caliber team. Would you buy the Lakers right now after this Drummond news, or look for value elsewhere in the West?
Definitely value. I think, Tyler, when you think about the West, how loaded it is, the fact that Denver goes out and gets a two-way 25-year-old wing in Aaron Gordon. Now Denver's in that conversation. Portland got better by adding Norman Powell. I think you think about the West as a whole, it's so competitive. The fact that we haven't even talked about the Clippers despite last season's collapse says that, okay, the Lakers right now, no LeBron, no Anthony Davis. They're not a great defensive team at this stage. And with all due respect to Frank Vogel, there's some other great coaches in the West. So I think there's no value on that. I wouldn't take the Lakers at plus 200 to win the West. Look elsewhere and say, until LeBron and Anthony Davis come back, I wouldn't even consider taking that bet.
Jordan Schultz, ESPN basketball analyst, joining us here on Bet. Catch him later today, ESPN 2, 6 p.m. Eastern, breaking down everything in the association tonight. Jordan, we always appreciate it, my man. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys. Yep.
All right. Monday night, NBA Pick'em. Let's close in style. We're calling this the NBA Pick 6. We're covering 6 games. We are not on the same game for any of these selections, so we're going to get as much action into your eardrums as humanly possible.
Yeah, and you're going to have a little bit of variety here. I'm doing all player props in this game. Are you picking sides and totals in each of these?
Sides and totals, just meat
Look
and
at
potato.
you, my friend.
He will deliver the accoutrement, as they say.
I
All
will
right.
garnish those picks.
Game number 1, this is yours. Boston Celtics laying 2.5, total of 229.5, hosting the New Orleans Pelicans.
Jaylen Brown out. That is something to consider as well. Evan Fournier will make his Celtics debut. My player prop is going to be on the Boston Celtics side, but I'm going to that front court where we know a little bit more about how that rotation is going to shake out because Tristan Thompson is still out and Daniel Tice was traded to the Chicago Bulls. That means the Time Lord, Robert Williams, is getting his opportunity from Brad Stevens. I'm going to go over 2.5 blocks for the Time Lord at plus 150. You know I like the candy on that. Led by Zion Williamson, the Pelicans like to attack the rim. They like to get in the paint and shoot close to the bucket. That's where the Time Lord lives. And if you ever watch Robert Williams, he is long and he is athletic. And as great as Zion Williamson is, he cannot get over the top of Robert Williams. So for a guy who has a 9.9% block rate in his career, which is, for comparison's sake, Rudy Gobert is 6.1. He's now getting 25 to 30 minutes a night. I think 2.5 over blocks. Give me 3 plus 150 on the return.
That is an incredible nickname. The Time
Time
Lord.
Lord. That is his name because he kind of just alters time with his length and ability.
Game number 2, this will be my selection. It's the Kings and the Spurs. Kings are catching 2.5, total of 229.5. I will play. Oh, we're at 3.5 now, from what I understand. Thank you very much.
No, I think we were just getting 3.5 minutes.
3.5 minutes left in show. Okay, so we are going to go back to 2.5. I am going to play the Sacramento Kings in this situation. This game actually opened 4.5 and has been moving to the Kings for good reason. They play basketball.
Yeah.
Or they at least are as of late. They've won 6 of 7. They've covered 5 of 7. Harrison Barnes with the miracle 3-pointer Saturday night against Cleveland. They didn't cover that game. They shouldn't have won that game, but it's a big shot. It's a team that's fueling the mojo right now, playing very well. San Antonio, meanwhile, they've dropped 4 of 5. I think they're wildly overrated. They're 23-20 on the season, and they're the 7th seed, but they have a negative scoring differential. Negative scoring differential. Kings, believe it or not, 9-4 against the spread in their last 13 trips to San Antonio. Game number 3, this is yours. It's Luka and the Mavericks laying 11, total of 221 at the Oklahoma City Thunder.
See that stat line that Moses Brown put up in a loss to the Celtics, 21 points, 13 rebounds, or 23 rebounds, pardon me. He had 19 boards in the first half. I'm going over 11.5 boards for just the game.
11.5 boards
for Moses Brown, who has had 12-plus boards in 5 of 6, has a 23.6% rebounding rate, which if he had played enough games or minutes, would be tied for 3rd in the NBA with Enes Kanter, we know one of the best rebounders in the game. Al Horford, he's sitting on the shelf for the rest of the season.
Chilling.
As OKC tanks. Mike Muscala, the backup center, he's out with an ankle injury. So Brown is going to get all the minutes he can handle against a team that's 19th in rebounding rate, doesn't have a great rebounder in Dallas. Over 11.5 boards for Moses Brown.
Good stuff. Game number 4, Clippers laying 2.5, total of 231.5. They're hosting the Milwaukee Bucks in the marquee game of the night. I will take the Los Angeles Clippers. Go back just a little over a week to when LA got humiliated in that game against the New Orleans Pelicans. They played terrible defense, and afterwards, Kawhi, well, as far as Kawhi could go in calling out his team, that's what he did. It was very monotone, as you'd expect. But he talked about how the defense needs to be more consistent. Guess what? Since that time, 6-1 straight up, 6-1 against the spread, giving up just 101 points per game. Big spot, big test for the Clippers. I think they come through. Game number 4, the Nets laying 11, 239.5, hosting the Minnesota Timberwolves.
So they get Kyrie Irving back for this matchup, and to me, that means we can go back to James Harden being the massive distributor, 14, 15 assist games. I'm going to play the over 10.5 dimes, minus 130 is the price for James Harden. Minnesota's a great matchup, 4th in pace, 27th in defensive rating, so we can likely expect the Nets to score about 125 to 135 points in this game. If that is the case, with Kyrie now there to help shoulder the scoring load, Harden should have ample opportunity to give me 11 assists in this match.
Harden's numbers have been insane. Final game in the six-pack, the Warriors and the Bulls. Bulls are laying one, total of 228. This number's been plummeting for good reason. Steph Curry has been upgraded to questionable. I'm betting that he plays tonight. I'm going to bet the over 228. We talked about this on the Daily Wager podcast this morning when it was around 224. It's been skyrocketing. Why? The Warriors are 13th in offensive rating with Steph on the court, dead last in the NBA in offensive rating without him. The tempo also picks up as well. When you look at Chicago, middle of the pack in defensive rating, they like to fly. These are two teams that rank in the top 8 in terms of pace, over 228, Warriors and Bulls.
I like it big time, baby. See if Voos and Zach LaVine can get their you-know-what together, but I think that's going to be a fun matchup tonight, Bulls and Warriors.
Tyler Fulghum, Joe Fortenbaugh. This is Bet. Catch us on ESPN2 tonight, 6 p.m. Eastern. We'll have more for you. Thanks, everybody.